Hello everybody, James here, and there is Dutch Mantell with every single piece of apparel and merchandise that he is selling pretty much at this point. Hats and a prototype doll, which he's not selling in fact, and also books behind him as well. This is Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 85. And just before we get into the whole meat of things, we've got, 2 hours of news as we always do. Let's get to the books first, Dutch. If you want those books signed by Dutch Mantell, his 2 books that he's written himself of stories of pro wrestling, you go to dirtydutchmantell with 2Ls at gmail.com, make your request there. Same with the few hats that he's got, University of Dutch hats that he has. He will sign those for you. Yes, Dutch?
I only have, at this point, I really haven't put them for sale. Only got 10. So if you have one, you have one. You have one of, well, I'm sending you one. You got one, and somebody else got one. I got one. I have 9.
Okay. So if maybe you should number them, special, like 3 out of 9.
I could do that. Yes, I could.
So if you are interested in the hats as well, signed, then you get in touch with Dirty Dutch Mantell at dirtydutchmantell with 2Ls at gmail.com, and the same for the diplomas, the University of Dutch diplomas as well. I have 2 books, one on The Rock, one on Owen Hart. Links are in the description. You know what it's all happening. Any more plugs very quickly? 5 stars on iTunes if you'd be so kind to give us stuff. We've got social media, you know the deal. And if you want to send in your questions, like so many of you have for the Tuesday episode, that is Ask Dutch Anything, you email them to questionsfordutch@gmail.com. What's on your mind, Dutch?
When I went into the hospital, I got behind on some of these orders, and I'm working as fast as I can to get them caught up, because it was Christmas time, so I had a lot of them. So if you haven't received your order, just be patient and keep listing, and I'll keep you updated. And if you're really worried about it, you can email me at dirtydutchmantell with 2 L's at gmail.com, and I'll be glad to answer you. Or if you're just that impatient, you can be refunded your money. I'm not trying to push something here and then keep the money. So you either get the merchandise or you get the money, so you can't lose, except some inconvenience and some time. So, and I appreciate everybody that wanted the books, because it is great reading. Sometimes I sit down and I'll say, what the hell did I write here? And I actually forget the story. Well, I don't forget it after I get to reading it, but I laugh out loud sometimes myself. I laugh at myself because I start remembering the incident that I'm talking about, and it's not bad. When you read yourself, and that is, I wonder, did Ernest Hemingway do that? I wonder, did he sit down and start reading his own stuff? Or Stephen King? I wonder, did he do that?
When he got scared. Like he got scared by his own books.
Yeah, scared himself and closed it up, and then looked around and turned the lights on. So, but anyway, that's about all I have to say. So I enjoyed writing the books, and I'm writing another one. I just don't have a title for it. You had a title for it, didn't you, James?
We had a lot of titles submitted to us, emails and comments and stuff like that. A lot of them were a lot ruder than I think you were after.
Oh, yeah. Well, I try to stay away from that, because what if a kid picked up my book and I'm talking about some orgy or something, which I never competed in or
like an Olympics.
Yeah, I never participated in.
And the bronze medal winner of the 2024 orgy Tampa division.
Anyway, a lot of stories about that, so I may get around to telling some of those stories too. So, all right, so what are we talking about today?
Oh, we've got a lot of news.
A lot of good news.
A lot of interesting news.
It is.
One thing that we sort of teased last week, and it's going to happen next week, is that I've sent Dutch. It still hasn't arrived yet. We couldn't get, apparently, express shipping on it. But a 6-pack of Woo Energy for Dutch to try to try on the podcast for the first time, and we'll see how that one goes. Your daughter's a nurse, so that's good. Like
So
administer CPR if it kills you or attempts to.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I've never tried this Woo drink. So that's the Ric Flair drink that he pushes on AEW, the Woo.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is really, really creative to call it Woo. I saw him. He was he was like the guest at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game 2 weeks ago. I forgot who they were playing now. Because they interviewed him down there in front of the pirate ship, and he looked like hell. He didn't look good. He looked like he was so red. He looked like he was going to just explode. So when they were talking about him, and the girl that was interviewing him, and a guy too, the guy knew who he was. The girl really didn't. So he got it in, and he's a big football fan anyway. So, but he was talking about his Woo drink, and they was promoting it at the game. So they poured a little money into this advertising. I wish them luck. So, and I'll have it this week, right?
Well, you might actually get it today. It said either Thursday or Friday. So
you don't want me to try it before the show?
No, I think it's fair that we 3 flavors as well. I've sent you.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll do it next week, right here on Storytime with Dutch. You can only see it here.
Yeah. I was going to say, let's hope it's not the season finale, thanks to Woo Energy of this podcast.
We could put the nail in the coffin, as they say. But I'll check it out next week.
Right then, why don't we do some news? And normally, as is last week, I sometimes have some like backup questions if we don't have enough news. We've got more than enough news to fill 2 hours this week. And the first one is the big news. You were very interested in this as well. Raw, WWE Raw is moving to Netflix in 2025. So, in a 10-year deal, which is actually 5 or 10 or 20 years, I'll explain more about that later. WWE Raw is moving to Netflix in a $500 million a year, $5 billion agreement that will not only see Raw move to Netflix in the States, but all WWE programming outside of the US, so that's UK, Canada, Latin America, Australia, Middle East, etc., is also going to be moving to Netflix as well. That includes SmackDown, that includes NXT, and that includes the premium live events. That they're all migrating internationally to Netflix, but in the US it will only be Raw. So I've got tons of bump to say about it, but for now, what do you think of this deal?
Well, I've never heard of it before, but it's a great deal for WWE. You know, when you talk about $500 million a year, now what's their best offer from Fox or another outlet in the US? It was only like $270 million a year, right?
I think
that's their best one.
Yeah, I think so. I'll get the exact number, but it was around the $280 million a year. Yeah, and that's for USA Network is buying the rights back from Fox. Not from Fox, but they're buying SmackDown.
Okay, $500 million a year, to me, unbelievable. It really is. And now this came about with their merger with who did they merge with?
UFC,
TKO.
Into TKO, yeah.
They merged with them, and it's working out. It really is. It's almost like, it's the perfect storm. All of a sudden, they merge with this company, and their TV creative gets a kick in the butt, and their show is not boring to watch. It's a lot like it was now, I'll say, back in the glory years. Back in the early 2000s, when they had that really, really good TV. It was almost, they even coined the phrase like can't miss TV. because they had some really, really good stuff. They had a lot of talents over, and it's almost like today they have a lot of talents over, and we'll talk about AEW in a minute, that they have hardly any talents over. A, a big, a gap between them. But I think WWE has hit a winner here. 500 million. You can pay a lot of bills with $500 million.
You can pay a lot of nations' bills with a lot of that.
Yeah, that is. When I read that, I didn't say bullshit. I said, wait a minute, this is almost too good to be true. But then again, you have an increase of 225 million a year over their last biggest deal, which is 270, 275. But a great, great deal for WWE. What did their stock go up? How much did it go up?
Oh, I think it added something like, I don't know if it was 15% or $15. It's come down a little bit now, but it definitely rocketed well over $10 after per share after that.
Do you have any WWE stock?
No, I have no stock. I've got some random, not Bitcoin, but altcoins somewhere. I managed to pick the only altcoin that went down in 2017.
I have some old ticket stuff. That's what I got.
I never invested in stocks. I always invested in property, which was a good thing to do, really, quite frankly.
Oh, yeah, it is. So. Because what's that old saying? Property never goes down. It really doesn't.
Safe as houses. What do they say?
Well, when I'm looking at house prices now, I went like, how do people afford a house now? It's what I'm saying.
I'm probably the last generation that could. I'm not sure I could have afforded it. If I'd bought my first house at 19, then I would have had no problem. But other than that, it's so hard to get on the property ladder now.
Too much. I don't know how a guy, a girl, they get married and say they're 23, 24 or whatever. But the house prices now, I don't know what they're making, but they damn sure better have some damn good ass jobs, because they want 20% down. You can't pay 20% down on a $700,000 house. They hadn't had time to save that money, according to how much they're making. But of course, and then raise a family on top of that. Hey, don't get me started.
No, like a young couple, both with jobs here, they couldn't get a one-bedroom bed set in piss flat Tennessee for that. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous, the mortgage situation these days. Is that
a knock on Tennessee?
No, it wasn't.
Hey, you could get canceled by country music people talking about Tennessee.
Let's forget about that.
But Tennessee is a good example, because it is, for years and years and years, it's been, one of the cheaper areas and beautiful country. I love living in Tennessee. But now Tennessee is like, let's say Nashville is one of the go-to cities. I don't know why, but it is. It's not because of the music, because of a lot of other stuff. But Austin, Texas, and Nashville are two of they're in the top 10, I think, of the go-to cities.
I'll very quickly say this. Where I live now, if you want a house with like a bit of like farmland around it, you are looking dollars-wise at the minimum $2 million, with a few acres around.
Really?
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's really.
Well, I'll buy two then.
You're selling a lot of books then. I didn't realize how many you were selling. I need to lower your fee. I'm going to. Let's go back to Raw here. Now, there's a bit of a misnomer that Raw's money has more than doubled. The rights fees for Raw's more than doubled, or around doubled. Sorry, just under, actually. It used to be $265 million per year on the USA Network. Because all the international rights fees, they are now losing, because it's an all-encompassing deal to get all the international rights onto Netflix. So really, WWE are only increasing anywhere between 20 and 32%, rather than nearer 45% on the previous deal. So I thought that'd be worth mentioning. Similarly, because I know you've got Netflix, most people have gotten, well, I say most people, but many, many millions, 260 million people have got Netflix, or 260 million accounts out there.
But they just had a deal about the password.
Yeah.
They only had 30 million, and then they cracked down on the password usage.
No. They increased their subscribership 30 million in the last year since the password sharing crackdown. So it was 230. They've come up to about 260, I think.
Oh, okay. I read it wrong.
Yeah. So So Netflix is very much expanding in that sense. Are you more likely? I know you're not going to watch Raw because it's simply too long. But would you be more likely to watch Raw on Netflix than on a cable channel?
It doesn't matter to me. Still a channel. My problem is finding it, because I don't have one of those easy to find systems. I got to look and look and look and go to something else and Fubo and TiVo and this and that and the other. By the time I get there, hell, the show's half over. If I don't start, it becomes on at 8. If I don't start at a quarter till, and that means I'm going to get it 30 minutes in when I finally find it. I'm not technologically talented to even do that. I mean, I can watch the show, appraise the show, talk about the show, but it's finding the show. Somebody needs to have a damn podcast about finding things on the internet now that you can watch. I don't know. Don't get me going again. It's 2 things you've already got me fired up about. So,
okay. I apologize.
Yep.
Did you? No, not really. The next thing I mentioned at the beginning was 5, 10, or 20 years. Now, it's announced as a 10...
What's that mean? I read that too.
Well, it's announced as a 10-year deal, but Netflix has a get-out clause at 5 years. Or, if they're happy with the results after 10 years, they have a 10-year extension that they can enact if they want to keep the programming. So we could, in theory, see WWE on Netflix for at least 20 years.
Well, let me say that, Netflix likes it, but WWE doesn't. And after 10 years, can Netflix say, oh, we're going 20?
I think they may be able to, yeah. Because keep in mind,
what if WWE said, well, we don't want to go another 10?
I feel that they'd be legally obligated to.
Well, they could be backing them. Well, I don't know. It's hard to back yourself in a hole.
Keep in mind this, Dutch.
500 million a year.
Exactly, 500 million a year. But keep in mind that in the past 5 years, 500 million from 265. That's almost doubled in 5 years. So where are we going to be inflation-wise for rights to television programming in 10 years? I mean, the WWE may end up on the wrong side of this.
Let me check. You're right.
Next, we're still on this, by the way, so people know, Raw, if people are thinking, oh, well, finally it's on Netflix, we don't have to listen to some tedious ratings chat. Apparently, a couple of months ago, Nielsen has struck a deal with Netflix to provide ratings for Netflix. So we're still going to be getting Raw ratings for the foreseeable.
Let me ask you this. Yes. I don't know if you know the answer. Now they have commercial breaks.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to add at least 20 minutes per hour to the show. The way it is now, it's like on an hour show, it's 38 minutes or 40 minutes of live programming, which is wrestling. And the rest of it, 20 minutes or 22, is taken up by commercials. Mm-hmm. Now they got to fill this time. What are they going to do?
Well, they'll probably do the exact same thing because Netflix has now got like several different tiers. Then the cheapest tier is programming with advertising, like television. Yeah. So they can essentially just do programming with advertising for the lowest tiered subscribers. For the mid and high tier subscribers that get, family plans and 4K video and everything, they'll probably just watch the matches. So, when a match goes to commercial like it does now, you'll just see the match, I guess. for the higher tiered subscribers.
Okay, this is the way they used to do it. They used to tell the talent, this is an inside secret. When they go to break, they tell you just to slow down, take a headlock and take them over. People are going to do nothing. And then they say, when we get 30 seconds, and he get up and he says, now start your stuff back. And when you go to break, you'll see a big move, like somebody's out of the ring, sprawled out, and you do a good move, and you sell it all over the place, and then that's when they take it to break. Hey, whatever happened to, what's his name that was the producer? What was his name?
Well, Kevin Dunn.
Whatever happened to him?
He's been shot out of a cannon.
He left, but where'd he go? He just retired?
I think he's just retired. I mean, he may well be worth 9 figures. Like, what are you going to do after that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What do you do? I mean, if you have all the money you're ever going to need in your life, which that'll be you, James, it won't be me, but what do you do?
If you're Kevin Dunn, maybe invest in some dentistry.
Now that was mean. Take it back. Take that back.
I take it back.
Yeah, but I'm saying he doesn't need any money. I don't know. That's a good thing to think about. I think I would get bored. I think I really would.
I've got one more question. I want to know what you think about this. And it's been suggested for a little while. Even Nick Khan, I think a couple of days ago, reacted to this and didn't necessarily say no, is would you move Raw from Monday to, let's say, Tuesday? Because
it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, especially you'll be aware, what you're not watching Raw on Monday, what are you watching?
Well, actually my TV habits have changed since I got a little older. Pro football through the season, I don't give a crap about it. I'll watch it. But me being an avid NFL fan, it's not there anymore. And even my college interest is kind of fading too with the NIL stuff, because there's a couple of college players who told the NFL to screw off because they're coming up their senior year. They will make more with the NIL endorsements their senior year in college than they could make in the NFL. I think they have a tier that they can't go over. It's like 400,000, 800,000 or something. I think a guy from USC, what's his name, Caleb something, used to play at Oklahoma. He's going to make like $2 million this year just off endorsements. So yeah, I would go back for my senior year in college. I would go to December and then I'd quit. No more. What do you need a college education when you already got $2 million when you're 21 years old? Unless you blow it, but which can't happen.
You finally have a down payment for a house with $2 million.
Hey, you could pay cash for it. Yeah, and just say screw it. But then they want you for taxes. People forget they get these big these contracts. You never see anybody, but think about the taxes he's going to pay. Oh, yeah. So give these people the biggest contract you can so they can take at least a third of it for taxes so we can support all the rest of the people in this country. So, hey, don't get me going on that either, because I wanted to start, maybe we need to start another podcast where we just talk about social issues and see how much heat we could get.
I think we could get a lot in about 4 minutes. I think it'd be cancelled before it was even on.
I think most people would agree with us.
Oh yeah, people with a brain would, of course.
So you're saying stupid people would not agree with us?
Exactly is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I kind of agree with that too. But what were we talking about?
Oh, we were talking about Raw and Netflix and stuff like that, but we're pretty much done now. The only thing we don't really know is the fate of the WWE Network, because Peacock started running it, and then it got terrible, and the old network was really good, but I know you never use the network, so we're going to move on. And this was something else you're interested in, the Rock on TKO board. The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, has been named to the board of TKO directors, so not just WWE, but UFC as well. As part of his deal, he gets $30 million of stock, paid in 4 increments, plus he now owns outright the trademark of The Rock. Formerly, WWE would receive a cut of any deal that Dwayne made that would feature like the Rock logo or the Rock name. And Dwayne also, because he was doing the rounds, also got himself a spiffy pair of spectacles as well with it.
Yes. Well, I think The Rock can thank his father for the name, Vince McMahon for the exposure. Do you know much about Rock, how he grew up?
I wrote a book on him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, he was broker in hell. Broke. Did he talk about living at the Days Inn in Nashville?
Yep.
He lived right down the hall from me. We both lived there. That could also be, that was Wrestler Skid Row. but he came from very humble beginnings, and finally Vince McMahon found him, and he made him what he is, him and Mick Foley, and got him started, got him exposed, and he ended up like he is today.
What do you think? What do you think The Rock's going to bring to the TKO board? Because is he still part of XFL? Because I know the XFL merged with the USFL or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the XFL now. Yeah, their season starts like a week after the Super Bowl. See, I had a thought one time. I said, what if they had right after the Super Bowl, and you have fans, football fans, college football fans, that are just, fanatical with football. And after the Super Bowl ends, now it's like, wait a minute, they don't have their drug anymore. What are they going to do? And that's what the XFL is going to pick up.
It's the UFL, apparently. It's the United Football League.
Okay, well, whatever it is. Yep. So I thought they would use X because that's a popular letter now. And I think he picked up, they had another league, I think that may have been the XFL, that went bankrupt a couple of years ago. So I think they're picking up on that. But now the football fanatics now have something to watch. Now they'll watch football. I don't care if it could be even bad football. They're still going to watch it. But I did watch a few of those. And where did this start? I always say one time, well, it had to start with wrestling. This other league started basically with Vince McMahon. He started like 20 or 30 years ago. It lasted about, 1 year or maybe no more. But he put the thought out there, and now we're seeing where it's leading. So, and it's sometimes it's pretty good football. They have pretty good games. They have different rules too. You know, one of the rules I like, if you don't follow football, you don't understand. See, you can, after you score a touchdown, you get an extra point. You got to go for it. You can go for it. But now you can go for 1 point, 2 points, or 3 points. The farther back you go. So no game is really out of reach if it's kind of within 10 points. You know, you could say if it was 8 points, well, you could score a touchdown, go for 2 and get it tied up. Or if you were 3 points back, you could get 9 points back, get a touchdown, go for 3, make it, and it'd be tied up, which makes the game more exciting. Plus, I think they kick off from the 20-yard line instead of the 40-yard line or 35 or whatever, which makes a big difference because most of the kicks in the NFL go in the end zone anyway. So you really don't have a run back. And I read that's where most of your injuries are, on those kickoffs, those blindside blocks and everybody running willy-nilly and all kind of different directions. So you get a lot of injuries that way. So But and kickoffs are boring to me. They're just boring. I like a wide open offensive game. Defense, I don't give a crap. Just give me the offense because that's what people they like offense, and they do put up some big scores. They put up the 50s and 60 points sometimes.
To bring back The Rock into this, I'm just looking at his filmography. There's one film called Red One that's already in post-production, so he's already filmed it. But apart from that, he's not really announced for anything else. So he's the sort of head of Seven Bucks Productions. He's now on the TKO board. I think he's involved with this new UFL. So he's more or less going behind the scenes, apart from if he's going to be at WrestleMania or not, because it's still not confirmed if he's going to be at WrestleMania. And it's also been said, although very doubtful, quite frankly, if he's going to have his last match at WrestleMania or maybe Saudi Arabia. I mean, how much money does he need to go there?
Yeah, how much does he need? I mean, but they would pay it. I think we're going to see him at WrestleMania, especially now that he's on the TKO board and TKO owns half. And they're half owners of the WWE. Yeah, I think it would benefit him. Plus, it would help his position. Not that he needs any help, but I think he's a valued addition to that board. And if he was in the main event, I mean, like you said, how much money do you need? So he could quit tomorrow and not miss a step. He's going to live the same. His life will be the same, except he's not getting full value out of his name. Which, if he headlined WrestleMania, that's an honor. It really is. Mm-hmm. And who would have thought when they started WrestleMania? They just called it WrestleMania. They didn't call it one. They called WrestleMania 2 because it followed one.
It was like World War One. They called it the Great War then a second one happened.
Yeah. And they called it the Second Great War. but
it's an old Ricky Gervais joke. It was like, they called World War One the Great War. He was good. Not sure about if it was great or not.
But 40 WrestleManias, and I've been on 4 of them. So I was on 10 and 11, and I think...
No, you're on 11. You weren't on 12.
I was there, though.
You were there,
I could have been on 12. I could have... Well, I wasn't on 12, but I was there. Where was 12?
Anaheim.
I was there. I wasn't on it, but I was there. So, might as well. I got paid for it.
There's
Guess what I got paid?
For not even turning up. 4,000.
Yeah, a little more than that. But that was not bad to show up. They give you, they just give you $5,000 just to show up and sit in catering. That's quite a payday, I would think.
That's what TNA used to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't get $5,000 there,
no.
Though. I just got some crappy food. But anyway, I was on 11 and 12, you said?
No,
and I think
you're on
29
11.
And 30.
Yeah.
29 and 30.
As a fun aside, Ava Raine, or just Ava now, The Rock's daughter, they've come up with now that Dwayne The Rock Johnson is now on the board of TKO. I don't know if this is like an in-joke, but they've made Ava the GM of NXT. That nepotism at work there, Dutch. Straight off the bat.
Do you think WWE engages in nepotism?
I imagine it's happened a time or two.
A time or two, oh yeah.
But I like the idea that it's just another way to keep Ava out of the ring. So they just keep giving her like speaking roles, and now they've made her a GM so she didn't have to wrestle.
Okay, I've never heard her speak. Have you?
It's fine.
Oh, it's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
Well, I've seen her. She has quite a way to go. But you got to think, here's her dad. I mean, she grew up totally different than what The Rock did. She's never wanted for money. cars, or anything. Whereas Rock growing up, hell, he may have wanted for a Baby Ruth candy bar. That's how broke he was. You know downtown Bruno, right?
Mhm.
You know the story about that?
Yeah.
The Rock needed a place to stay in Nashville, and downtown Bruno, he didn't have a pot to pee in either. And he said, "Hey, come stay at my place." And you can imagine what kind of place it would be if you don't have much money. But he gave the Rock a place to stay, and Rock never forgot it. He always remembered Bruno, and he was in Nashville one day, and he looked up Bruno, and he was talking to him, and they did a video on this. And he gifted Bruno, which I'm trying to get him for a guest on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, I know, but
But
you want me to stay up really late because he's got a real job.
Oh, yeah, he does have a real job.
Hmm.
And what he's talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is for James right now, for me, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. James, what time is it for you?
Well, it's 10:15 for you. It's 3:15 for me. PM.
Yeah, in the afternoon.
So we'd have to start at like midnight my time.
Yeah, Bruno, he has a regular job. And I said, well, you have to start early in the morning. How early? I went out about 10 o'clock. Hey, man, I'd love to do the show, but I got this job I got to do. So, and Bruno probably has the first dollar he ever made. Because when you don't make any money, a dollar means something. So he's hung on to quite a bit of that. But I'm like I said, I'm trying to get him as a guest on the podcast, and love to have him because he has some great stories. So if we advertise him, ladies and gentlemen, it's almost you can't miss Downtown Bruno on a podcast because he is a talking son of a gun. You won't get bored by talking to him. Let me say that. Mm. But anyway, I like the Rock gave him a truck. Said I never forgot. So. And he didn't. And Rock didn't have to do that, of course. And it's like a $50,000 truck. And he still got it.
I will, I promise we'll have Harvey on. It's just, Harvey Whippleman on, it's just late for me. But I'll do it. I'll promise I'll do it at some point soon. I promise you. We're going to move on. CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes promo from Raw this past Monday. You watched it. I watched it.
Did.
I watched it just before we came on air, quite frankly. What did you think of it?
Tremendous interview. Timing was perfect because these guys know what they're doing. CM Punk's a great talker. Cody is too. But they were talking about a situation between them, talking about the Royal Rumble, which actually increased my interest in the Rumble because these guys, they took different paths as they talked about in the interview. And when it was over, they had me hooked. And I know everything. Well, I don't know everything there is to know about wrestling, but I know most of it. But now I'm thinking, okay, how's this? They told a story within a story. So if you haven't seen the interview, I would highly advise any wrestling fan to go back and find this interview between them that they did on Raw. And it's, anytime I'm watching something, I look at the time and it's like 13 minutes. A 13-minute interview just between two guys. They got to be saying something or you're going to lose your audience.
And that isn't entrances. That was all the speaking was 13 minutes.
And they did a great job. And I like the way, Cody was all dressed up and, Punk talked about him, said, hey, this is the same stuff I got up and I wore to the gym this morning or something. So, and I don't know what it is about Punk that the people just love him. I don't know if you could even turn him heel, tell you the truth, because the people, he talks their language. I think Cody talks a little bit over their heads. Good talker. I mean, you understand what he's saying, but this was a masterpiece of a two-person interview, not rushed. And you could see the people when somebody could say something, it's like landing a punch. When he said, it's about your dad, and everybody, now it's a touchy subject.
They let it breathe. They let everything breathe in it as well, and it wasn't too. I want to ask you this.
It wasn't rushed.
No. Let me ask you this, right? I was thinking, watching Cody and Punk, who's the better interview of the two, or the who was the better promo? And not that Cody is bad at all by any measure, but I think Punk is better, and the reason why is because when Cody was speaking, it feels a little more memorized. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue like it does with Punk. What do you think of that?
I agree. Punk's a good talker. He's a good talker. But this is about the talkers in the wrestling business. You can teach some of it, but if you're just a good talker, you're a good talker just on the street, just around the table, if you're talking.
He talks like you when you were doing interviews in Memphis, and he talks like Lawler in Memphis as well. It's almost conversational.
Yeah, well,
in that sense, and it's more real and it's more engaging that way. But I mean, this is a compliment to you as well. You in the day, and in WWE later, and just in your career, you were every bit as good a talker as Punk was. Or obviously, Punk is every bit as good a talker as you were, because you talked to people in a conversational style. And even in like 2013, there was something like some of you and Alberto Del Rio in like a main event or whatever, like the B show. And I remember the closing line is "We the people," and then you close with "See you later," throw the mic down, and you leave. And I thought that was a better go-home line than something, let's say, really memorized, because it's you, and that's great, and that means more.
Well, I appreciate that, but I was taught early on in this business, you got to talk, you got to bring people to you. You got to make them see the way you're thinking, and they got to understand. I've always, an old time booker told me one time, he said, when you talk to where a 10-year-old kid can understand you. And if a 10-year-old kid understands you, there's no problem with anybody else. You know, a lot of the angles we used to do were emotional angles where we wanted people to feel sorry for somebody. And that was called like getting into their heart. Once you get inside here, you got it. It's a feeling. And you want somebody to feel sorry for the baby face, or you want them to feel like, oh, he needs to get back. And that's part of telling the story. And I appreciate your words about me, but I thought Punk and Cody, this is as close to a perfect discourse you could have between two opponents that you could get. So
very good.
I think now, after seeing that, I'm saying, ooh, one of them could win this. If you had to say, would Punk win it or would Cody win it?
Well, I hope Cody wins it, because I put £25 on him to win it. I got a 6-1 on Cody to win.
I would say Cody, but I'm gonna say Punk now. That has a better percentage. And when I say that, Cody doesn't need to win it. That's part of Cody's story getting there. Unless they work an angle with Punk in the journey. But I think, Punk, everybody knows that follows wrestling, because Punk wanted that main event at WrestleMania. That was one of his, I don't think he even cared how much money he made. He just wanted the main event at WrestleMania on his resume. I mean, so he could say, hey, I main evented a WrestleMania. Did you? And I think that was the year that I forgot what happened. Who main evented
Rock
over Punk?
It was The Rock.
Well, but he wanted that and he didn't get it, so he left. And when he left, you didn't hear from Punk 4 or 5 years. Other than now he's doing this, he's doing that, or whatever. He went to MMA a while, and what was that MMA? Was that a gimme? Hell, I should have took that. He made $500,000 to go out there and get stomped on.
Oh no, he made over $1 million.
Well, he had two,
He probably made over $2 million then.
No.
Yeah, for the first, I can't remember if it was the first or second fight, but he made like 1.1 million.
What did he make for the first one?
I imagine similar.
Yeah, but think about the taxes he had to pay. See?
Just if you don't like paying taxes.
Didn't he lose both of them in the first round?
No. He lost the first one in the first round, hilariously.
Yeah.
And then the second one, it was a 3-round decision to the other guy. It was the most one-sided beating, and I think he was called Mike Jackson or something like that, who also happened to be the second worst MMA fighter they've ever had in the modern era. He was so bad, the guy who beat Punk was so bad that Dana White said, the other guy's never going to fight for UFC ever again. He's banned. So it's just like, well, there you go. I mean, he just wasn't cut out for it. Too many injuries and just
let me ask you this.
Not naturally gifted in it at all.
Here's CM Punk, never had a fight other than
Teddy Hart.
WWE. Yeah. How did he convince Dana White to put him in there? Because he knew he'd draw some buys?
Yeah, just a freak fight, basically.
Yeah.
They've only, like in the modern era, they've only done a couple, and one was with James Toney, the boxer, versus Captain America. I always blow his name. He was the old guy who was in the I forget his name. I'm sorry. I'm sure you'll put it in the comments, whoever it is. Very briefly, just sticking with the segment, a fan wrote in. I know this isn't the fan questions episode, questions for Dutch@gmail.com, but Brett says, hey, Dutch, I was watching Monday Night Raw and I was wondering how they decide on who comes out first or second for the Cody Rhodes and CM Punk segment. Is it based on seniority, or who is more over the fans, or something else? Thank you.
Who did go out first? Or was he just in the... was he just in the ring when we came back?
I don't know. When we looked at it on YouTube and they were already in the ring, so we don't know. But how they decide that? Just who's more popular?
Well, I think between... if I had a choice of sending Cody or Punk first, and it's according to what the people on TV are going to see, I think I'd send Cody first and Punk second. Because I think when Punk comes second, people perk up. Now they say, whoa, we didn't expect this. And that's what wrestling has thrived on for years and years and years. Give them the unexpected. And I can say this, that if they kept you from the first, they held you all the way through it. Because I found it very, very interesting. Probably one of the best interviews I've heard. And I don't know, might be the best interview I've ever heard. Because there was no contact between them. There was no need for contact. The contact would have actually hurt it. Even a pull apart would have hurt it, I think. Because I've seen two guys, they get in an argument and it's a standoff. I've seen this on the street and they both just go their separate ways. But still, if they'd have had a fight right there, that kind of hurts it, I think. I want to see that later. But I think they did more to increase awareness of Royal Rumble than anything else.
Next point of call, we'll talk about this fairly quickly. Kevin Patrick of SmackDown, the SmackDown commentator.
Did I call it?
What did you say about him a few weeks ago?
I said I don't get him. I don't get him because he's like he's the third wheel that is flat because he offers no. He's just an announcer that doesn't add anything. He actually hurts them. You got Michael Cole, which you're kind of used to. And then what's the other guy's name?
With Kevin Patrick, there's Wade Barrett with Michael Cole, and it was Kevin Patrick and Corey Graves.
Corey Graves. But Patrick, he didn't fit. And that is actually what they said when they demoted him. They don't call it a demotion. They just moved him, but it is a demotion. They took him off the show. And that was their reasoning. He didn't fit because he's not, I don't think you could pull any announcer out of an announcing school that knows a little bit about wrestling that could do as well as Kevin Patrick did. And isn't he some kind of a soccer announcer anyway?
Yeah, didn't he come from ESPN or something like that?
Something, but he just didn't fit pro wrestling. What I miss are the three-man booths with personality. Remember you had Bobby Heenan and Jesse Ventura. Then you had Jerry Lawler like forever.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of miss their craziness and their jokes. But on that three-man booth now, it's just straight commentary. See, they call the third man or the second guy there the color guy because he's got to add some backstory. He's got to say, well, this guy comes from so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and he can tell a story that's, say it's football. It's not really football related, but it is about the guy, why he acts the way he does or whatever. But I kind of miss that. And Kevin Patrick added none of that. And even his straight commentary was, I don't know, it just wasn't there. It's like, the feeling that the vibe I get from him is he's just boring. I mean, watching Raw is hard enough with 3 hours to kill. Then you got to sit there and you got to listen to, he wasn't on Raw, he's on SmackDown. But, if you got to listen to that, it becomes more boring. It becomes a chore more than it becomes an enjoyable thing. I think what hurts Raw is that it's 3 hours. And I think that third hour goes down. Doesn't it usually the rating go down in the third hour?
Generally, this last Raw, the rating steadily climbed because of Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, actually. But generally, yes. It's
okay, when were they on the show? What part of the show were they on?
I think they were on later in the show. That's why the audience kept building.
And they kept pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the way they used to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Push it and push it and push it. And if you get people to hang around and more people joining, and then they call people, hey, they're going to have this. So it was an interesting concept just by announcing it. So imagine, well, let's hear what these guys do and see what they say. So the interest is there. All they want to do with this interest now is like feed it and don't blow it off. Just feed the interest. And now everybody's got a thought about it. What's going to happen? And that's the beauty about wrestling, is trying to predict what they're going to do. And of course, I can't predict what they're going to do. Hell, sometimes they can't predict what they're going to do because they could change it 2 minutes before they go out. I've seen that done a lot of times. I've seen the finish of the match change during the match. I was in one. It was Swagger and Claudio Cesaro against the Usos on TV, Monday Night Raw. And all of a sudden, they do this finish. We were supposed to go over, Swagger and Cesaro were supposed to go over. And all of a sudden I see him pin Cesaro. I went, what the hell happened? And I asked the referee, he said, oh, Vince just changed it. Vince just came over the headset. He said, change the finish.
To the referee?
Yeah, and he told everybody, and they said, okay. But see, the people at home never knew that. Hell, I didn't know it. Nobody knew it till Vince called the audible, over the headset, change the finish.
Did you think it was a botch while you were watching it?
No, I didn't think it was a botch. I knew it had been ordered, but where did it come from? And so,
did you ever
guess
find
what?
out? I was going to say, did you ever find out what the reason was for it, or?
No, and I never asked because I went in the back. I didn't go in the back like this. What the hell happened out there? What the hell? Because Vince is sitting right there, and I walked by Vince, and he went, "Good match," and I went, "Thank you, sir." And I just kept going. Because sometimes if it happens, it happened for a reason. Hey, I don't own the place. I'm not the boss. So what? Hey, it's his. He can do with it what he wants. So, and pitching bitches only gets bad attention on you. Unless you're a big name. And I wasn't a big name. So I just, remember I was saying, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Don't cause any undue stress and attention on your position, which can be changed just like that. Because say I went back and I'd raised hell, who in the hell fucking done that, blah, blah, blah. Hey, I could have been gone the next minute. They said, tell him to get his bags and don't come back. And that's the way they would have done it. Of course, the next day, I guess the head of talent relations would call me and says, well, you got fired last night. I did. I thought I just told me to go home. No, he wants you to stay home. Okay. But I've seen that really up close and know how it works. Not the end of the world.
Next up. Now,
how's my mustache look today?
No, I said to you before, it's looking very symmetrical.
Oh, thank you. Okay, let's go.
Is that the best compliment I can give you about it?
That is.
Very good. Now, we're not actually going to be talking about this list. We've got two lists here. Now, end of year awards, PWI, and I'm going to rush through this one. Wrestler of the Year, Seth Rollins. Woman of the Year, Rhea Ripley. Faction of the Year, Judgment Day. Tag Team of the Year, FTR. Match of the Year, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, which I didn't even think that was the best match on that show. But there you go. Inspirational Wrestler of the Year, Mark Briscoe. Comeback of the Year, Trinity, which is former Naomi. Most Improved Wrestler of the Year, LA Knight, which I'm sure you agree with. Rookie Wrestler of the Year, Sol Ruka. Indie Wrestler of the Year, Matt Cardona. Feud of the Year, Sami Zayn versus the Bloodline. Yep.
You kind of went still on me there for a second. Back up a couple of classifications.
Oh, don't worry. We're not even focusing on this. We're moving on to the better one. Most Hated, Dominic. Most Popular Wrestler, Cody Rhodes. But there is another list that I want to bring to your attention. It's the more fun list. It's the Wrestlecrap Worst of Wrestling Year and quote-unquote awards. Awards like a Razzie Award. They call it the Gooker Award, named after the gobbledygooker. So I'm going to read out the 8 that were voted on in order from 8th to winner. Winners, in fact, in this case. So with 2% coming in last place of the worst of wrestling in 2023, CJ Perry and Miro's Never-Ending Feud. 7th with 6%, Roman Reigns.
Okay, what is their feud? What is it? I don't know either.
I don't know. They sort of got together because Andrade left, and then they sort of just had to sort of get back together, even though everyone knows they're married in real life and it makes no sense. And now CJ Perry's off with an infected finger. Snoop Dogg and Shane McMahon versus The Miz, 6%. This is the one where Shane McMahon makes his triumphant return and his leg disintegrates within seconds.
But that was interesting.
That was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, what's it, the worst moments on TV?
Yeah, these
For
are
him,
the worst wrestling segments of the year.
well, I kind of disagree with that. It was a botch, but he got hurt. So, but it was interesting. after after he'd come back after all that time, and he's doing all that. Oh goddamn! Oh. He falls down. He's hurt. Okay.
He sort of went like that right down. It was amazing. Next. Now, I'm not sure about this one. Roman Reigns' week schedule. So essentially, he just wasn't on TV very much, I guess. So the one after that is Woo Wings and Woo Energy.
Horrible. Who cares?
You haven't even tasted it yet. That'll be next week, by the way. Number 4 with 9%, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre match from AEW.
Nobody got it.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, but nothing happened. He just showed up without a saw on it. You know that. But I don't quite get it. It had. I don't think it had a place in the match, other than, everybody knew who he was. I guess I did, but what match was he in? It was Jeff Jarrett match.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember. It was Jeff Jarrett and like Satnam Singh and Jay Lethal. I can't remember the other guys he was facing. I mean, it wasn't very memorable for me.
Well, I didn't get it. I don't say it was the worst. It was entertaining if something had happened.
I'm Googling now to find out who it was. Forget it. I'll find out in a minute. Number 3 was Vince McMahon's mustache with 14%, which he has apparently since shaved off. That was a 2023 thing.
Hey, I think he should get with Tony Storm, and they both can do the 1920s black and white movie star.
Don't give him advice.
That would fit, wouldn't it?
That would be excellent. I'll give you that.
I would have him just do a vignette. He'd just walk through and he'd say, "What was the old Clark Gable line?"
"Here's looking at you, kid." That one.
And just have him say that and keep going.
"Frankly, Tony, I don't give a damn." That kind of thing.
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great. That would be genius.
And I'm trying to still find out who's in this Texas match. Anyway, forget about that. We have dual winners for this year, 2023's Gooker Award winners, both with 27%. The entirety of CM Punk's time in AEW in 2023.
Yeah.
Which I'm not quite sure why, because the stuff on screen was fine. And 2, Father James Mitchell doing drugs on pay-per-view. NWA pay-per-view.
And these were the worst moments of 2023.
Yes.
I disagree.
What was the worst moment of 2023?
The maximum male models.
That was 2022, though, wasn't it, pretty much?
No.
No?
2023.
Let me have a look.
It was.
They don't even have a Wikipedia page for me to check this, but I thought they more or less disbanded by 2023. No, they're in 2023, you're right.
See, I have short-term memory. I can't even remember 2022. So.
I'm just looking at what happened to the maximum male models. So they were the worst. Anything else that we think we've missed off the list that you've had to suffer through in this last 12 months?
Well, I'm sure they had 2023. Where was the guy? What was his name? They just got rid of him. Or they just give him his release. The muscle guy that played the guitar or whatever.
Oh, Rick Boogs.
Anytime he was on TV. Horrible.
Ah, dearie me. Well, he's retired now, so you don't have to see him on TV anymore, I guess.
Yeah. But the maximum male models, but in talking about the maximum male models, I think that is a tribute to LA Knight because he lived through it. Was his name L.A. Knight then? No. What
No.
was his name? What was his name?
God, you're going to test me. I'm going to pause this while I look. One sec. Was it Max Dupree?
It was.
There we go.
And the girl. Some girl.
You don't even have a Wikipedia page with like the members on this that I can check. Some girl as well. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Right. We're
and
going to
I
move.
think that was that. And I said they were dead on arrival. And they were more than dead on arrival. They were dead. They were dead coming from the funeral home. So, and when you see something like that, people ask me a lot, why do you say about this guy? Why do you say, I'm not saying it to be a butthole. I'm not saying it to be an a-hole. I'm saying it because it has nothing to it. It has no zip. It has no vibe. It has, my mind doesn't start, well, they could do this with these guys and they could do this and they could do this. I just look at them and stop. I don't know what they could have done with the male models because I don't know if they were like supposed to be heels or baby faces or what. But whatever they were, they didn't get the memo out to the fans fast enough. But that was probably the worst. And hey, the guys weren't bad. They really weren't. But it's just one of those things that you just look at and you're saying, I don't get it. See, this is what I miss about the older days. And people said, hell, you were back in the dinosaur days. Yes, I was. But you knew when two Japanese guys walked out of the dressing room with the Japanese flag that they were heels. You knew that. Or two Germans, two Nazis walking out. Yeah, they were heels. You were supposed to hate them. Or, bald-headed guys or, or masked men. They usually come out, they were like the bad guys. You didn't need that introduction. So, but now you need that introduction. What were the maximum male models? Nobody knows. I don't even think they knew. I don't even think creative knew what they wanted to do with these guys. And when creative doesn't know, that's kind of a bad sign. You're not going to get over.
Just to clarify, LA Knight left Maximum Male Models in 2022, and the others stayed, I think, hang on, I don't know. It was either at the end of 2022 or beginning of 2023. Either way, there's some sort of crossover around the turn of the year. Now, we're going to move on. Dark Side of the Ring Season 5, the show that you originally and best voiced over.
I'm no longer on that show.
I know. You weren't Canadian enough, so they said, but they have announced who's going to be the subjects of Season 5. And there's two people that it isn't going to be. One, it was basically said that Kurt Angle was going to be part of it, and he wasn't. And two...
About what were they going to cover about Kurt?
Oh, probably the Perk Angle years when he was deeply unwell in medically ruining himself.
On medication?
Yeah. There's probably going to be that, but he's not going to be part of this season, although it was suggested he was going to be. And another one was they wanted Mike Awesome, who committed suicide some years ago, to be a part of it, but his family said absolutely not. So we're never going to see a Mike Awesome Dark Side of the Ring episode. But who we are going to see is Chris Adams, Sensational Sherry, Terry Gordy, Black Saturday, Chris Colt, which I'm not even sure we've ever brought up on the show before, The Sandman, Earthquake, Harley Race. Now, we'll come back to Harley Race in a second. Buff Bagwell, and I'm not quite sure, but Brutus Beefcake for some reason. Maybe it's the parasailing accent, I guess. But Chris Adams, we'll know why. He was quite a lot of stories about him as well. Don't pay more than the greatest. Like Sensational Sherry, we know why, because she the OxyContin thing. Black Saturday is obvious. Chris Colt, that's an interesting one.
Black Saturday.
Yeah.
Was that the Vince taking over TBS?
It was.
Okay.
Chris Colt.
Okay, go.
Why would he be on this? Apparently he did gay porn at one point.
Well, I knew him briefly. I can't say I know him more than saying hello. I never worked with him, but there's a lot of stories out about him out there.
Any you would care to mention?
No.
All right.
Other than, anyway, I don't think I can mention them.
Well, we'll see what happens in the episode then, and they sort of piggyback off that. The Sandman, which I'm still not quite sure. Earthquake, I'm not quite sure what angle they're going with. But Harley Race is an interesting one. And I've heard it suggested, advanced, that it could be about the car crash that he was in when he was young in the business, and he nearly lost his leg, had it amputated, and his pregnant wife they were only married like a month, died instantly in the crash. Do you know the story of this? What happened?
I've heard the story, but I don't know the story. It was Harley broke in like Kansas City area where he's from. And I ran across Harley when he was the booker in Florida when I worked there. And Harley he lived a fast, hard life. He always drove fast cars, and he always drove fast. And he was always drinking. And it was amazing to me that he never got stopped or had an accident in the condition he was in. And I liked Harley. He always treated me well, good guy, and he was a tough son of a bitch, is what he was. When he would go, and this is when you could work one of those angles that the people start coming. I mean, I can't imagine that happening now. People coming over the railings to take a shot at you. But that's what they worked for back in the day. That was a dangerous thing to work for, because when they're coming over that railing, you don't know what they got. Whether they got a knife, they got a club, they got a blackjack, they could probably have a gun, I guess. But Harley had one thing protecting him. He had a right hook. When he would go to hit them, and when he'd hit them, they're gone. They don't get up. I mean, they may get up in 10, 15 seconds, they may get up. But when he hits them, they're gone for the immediate future. So that would give him time to get out of there. And I've seen him fight his way out of more than one situation in Florida. But tough guy, treated me well, and he had a reputation as a tough guy that he could back up. So, of course, he never had any trouble in the ring because everybody knew how tough Harley was. He was a tough guy. And Harley talked to the talent, or to me, exactly the way he did an interview. Straightforward, and he would tell you the truth. He wouldn't lie to you. If he said your work was not up to par, he'd tell you you were the shits. Nobody disagreed with him because nobody wanted to get hit with that hook. Said, well, I disagree with you, Harley. No, good. you're gone. But yeah, he got stopped by a highway patrolman in Florida, and he told me the story. He said the cop didn't come right away, and he had some tobacco or some cigarettes, and he said he started chewing that. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. How does tobacco, all of a sudden, does it have sober you up qualities that I've never heard of? And he said he rolled his window down, and The only thing that saved him is the cop recognized him, and he told him he was speeding, and the cop must have been a wrestling fan, and the way Harley talked to him, and the cop let him go. He said, "Slow down, Mr. Race, please." And he said, "I will." I mean, Harley didn't disrespect the cop, but the cop actually, I think he showed more respect for Harley after catching him doing 100 miles an hour in a 70-mile-an-hour zone or a 65-an-hour zone, and he let him go. See, there's no telling how many cops that watch the TV that used to stop the wrestlers and would recognize us. And I've gotten let go several times. The guy would just tell me to slow down, you know. But he would see my real name on my driver's license. Mm-hmm. He says, you suspiciously look a lot like Dutch Mantell. I said, "Oh, really?" Yeah. And then I'd tell him I was Dutch Mantell, and he said, "Oh, okay, all right." And very friendly, and he'd let me go. Because I wasn't doing 100 miles an hour, probably the fastest I would go. I may ease in on 80 sometimes, but, I didn't drive like Harley. Because Harley, he just didn't give a crap.
Just to go with the last two on the thing, Bruce Beefcake with the parasailing accent, but Buff Bagwell, were you in WCW when Buff Bagwell turned up, or did you ever cross paths?
Well, I know Buff. I worked with him in TNA.
Oh, right.
But what was his situation in WCW, or what happened?
Well, I just don't know when exactly he went to WCW. I know he was there in '92. I'm just not sure if he was there by the time you were there.
The thing about Buff, I think he did some male prostitution. I read about.
He did stripping, and he's done later on. He was doing escort work. Do you know how much he was charging for an entire evening with the Buffster?
$2,000.
Okay, right. So I actually saw the website itself at the time. $25,000
for one night.
Yeah,
I'd ask for a refund.
If you paid it in the first place, then you'd need your head checking.
Nah, I don't think he ever got $25,000. No.
What was?
Did you think? Wait a minute? Do you think he could command such a fee?
You can try and charge whatever you want. Do I think anyone ever paid that? No.
No. But you might as well ask for it. I'll say that. Guess what they got? They can say two things: yes and no, or they can try to get you down a little bit.
Or negotiate.
Yeah, they can, but so wait a minute. What do you mean you looked on his page? He had a page?
Yeah, he had a website back in the day where it say, for an hour, 2 hours, maybe it was for the weekend, $25,000, but that's still a little pricey.
Okay, was it a night or was it a weekend?
I'm backtracking on myself. It was either a night or a weekend. I can't remember, but like an hour would start probably at four figures.
Well, yeah. What would have been an hour be?
I only remember the $25,000 number. Let's say $1,000, and then it multiplies like if you want 2 hours, then it's $3,000.
Oh, it's $1,000 an hour.
Let's say that, yeah.
Okay, so a weekend, 25,000. Well, okay, well he's giving them a break. It should be 48,000.
I've messed up. Here, I remember the $25,000 thing. Here it is. I do apologize. $800 for 2 hours, $1,550 for 4 hours.
Wait a minute, 1,000. How much?
1,550, which is a weird number to come up with. Though.
That is a weird number. Where's the 50 come in?
That's a $50 discount if you book 4 instead of 2.
Yeah.
Overnight.
Yeah.
$3,000.
Yeah.
Per day, $4,500. For a weekend trip, $8,000. And for an entire week, I'm sorry to say, that was $25,000. I got my numbers mixed up.
Well, good work if you can get it.
Could he get it?
I don't know. How long was he in that business?
Oh God, I don't know. This was back in 2014. These numbers were reported. You
Hey,
mentioned
we need to get him. We need to get him on the podcast and ask him.
I had Buff as Buff Bagwell on my other podcast. I would like to have Marcus Bagwell on. Because he's been clean and sober for a while now. So
yeah, but he came off the wagon about 2 or 3 months ago.
Now he's claiming that that wasn't true. That was an old warrant that had finally been served to him from back in the bad days, and that he's still on the wagon.
Okay, when you had him, was this in his prostitution days?
No, this was about 18 months or 2 years ago, but it was in the off the wagon period.
Did you ask him about those days?
No, and I can't believe I didn't. I've got to have him back. I don't know. There was loads of stuff.
That's what I want to know. I don't give a shit about his wrestling career. Just tell me about the other stuff.
I promise you, if I can get him back on, I'll have him on and I'll ask it for you. You said that you worked with Buff in TNA, so
yeah,
this was in the early days, wasn't it? How was that?
Oh, he was fine. Yeah. He was good. Yeah.
Because he had a bad rep. He had a bad rep in the business at the time, so I was wondering what you thought of him, definitely.
Hey, see, where did I have him at? I worked a show with him one time. We were at I swear to God, we was at a goddamn rodeo arena. Damn dirt floor and this, and you could probably pack 3,000-4,000 people because it had seats all around the rodeo, enclosure. I bet we had 150 people there. Oh, it was horrible. So I got my money first. I think Buff did too. And he showed up and I think he was tipsy that night too. But he said hello and how you doing? And, hugged me, and then he was supposed to go right out and do something. And he did. Didn't he get hurt real bad not too long ago, 5 years ago or something?
Yeah. He's been on crutches for a
happened?
long time. I think car accident. I suspect he caused, but he didn't want to talk about it. But yeah, he did his leg in properly. When you worked with him in TNA, I believe that would have been the very first TNA show because he was in for that, and then
he disappeared.
Then he pretty much disappeared. He did like a couple of other episodes really early on when I don't think you were involved, and then he did a couple of shots in 2006, and that was it.
Yeah, well, he wasn't there long, and that's actually where I met him. But
no, well, it's good to know that he was fine to deal with.
Well, I didn't have to deal with him in a position of booking him, I was booking him, but I didn't handle him. But it was simple stuff, so he couldn't disagree on too much if he didn't like.
It was a battle royal anyway, so it's easy enough. Right, we're going to move on. Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan, our old friend.
Yep.
In a promotional video for the WWE Royal Rumble coming up this Saturday, Hulk Hogan said, "You never know who's going to show up. You never know. I might have one left in me."
Well, I hope it's not this one. Because if he can, what do you think? I'm going to ask everybody that's listening right now. If all of a sudden the Royal Rumble's going on, he would be one hell of a surprise. Well, what do you think the crowd would do before he got to the ring? Say, oh no, that's you think they'd be down or up?
I think they go, yay, and then when he tries to walk to the ring, they go, like in case he just disintegrates.
Yeah. I think it would be legitimate shock in the beginning, and then the closer he got to the ring, they go, oh no, but I think he would have their attention. And it's like you see a guy get on, we're talking about rodeos. you see a guy get on the bull and you know he's coming off. Just when. So the closer he got to that ring, you're expecting the big blow up or. So when he was going to the ring, he just fell down, fell over, and he stayed there. Would that be in bad taste, you think? If he just he faked an injury or faked a heart attack or something.
What, and then he's declared the winner because he never gets into the ring and everyone else is eliminated. That'd be brilliant.
Oh, it's a genius. It's genius. And then I've got, you take it to court, and then, hey, we've never had a title defense decided in a court, have we?
No.
Never have.
That should be
never
have.
have.
That should be something like this. Let me give you a quote that Hogan said back in October. I would have loved to have had that last match, but now it's completely out of the picture. I'm just too beat up from the surgeries. So Manny's changed his tune.
Well, he's okay. You got Hogan is sitting back looking at. He knew he had no chance under the old regime of Vince, but now this other company, Endeavor, they've entered the picture, and all of a sudden, Endeavor's trying to get their name out there, and that would make huge headlines.
Well.
Hulk Hogan. Yeah, and he's looking at their bank account. It's not the millions of dollars, it's the billions of dollars that he could possibly negotiate out of them.
Sue them for letting him get to the ring in the first place.
But yeah, he could, and he could have that in mind too. I'll go down there, and all of a sudden I'll just fall down. I won't even get in there. I make headlines. Everybody sees it, so I'll just settle out of court for $5 million. So, but
when was the last time you've seen Hogan not having a walking stick? Because I mean, he's not got like a walking stick; he's got like a staff, like a wizard.
Well, I haven't seen really. I haven't seen any pictures of him really. I saw Trump with. I saw Vince with one, a walking cane. So, but I don't know. This Hogan, say what you want to about him, but when he does a podcast or he does an interview, it's reported on quite extensively. Why don't we get him on this podcast and ask him all these questions?
400 days a year wrestling and stuff.
I'll be like, yeah, well, that's what he said. I want to ask him about the time he nailed old Bubba the Love Sponge's old lady. And it got recorded on tape. I've never got to the bottom of that. Really?
I would have done it. I mean, not if it was recorded, but yeah, she was worth one.
You would have done what?
Oh, I would have had a tickle with her, definitely. Why not?
Oh.
It'd be a bit weird knowing that Bubba the Love Sponge is in the next room, but
didn't you just get married?
Let's not worry about that at the moment. This is purely hypothetical. This conversation.
But you heard the discussion allegedly between Hulk and the Sponge.
Yeah.
That he asked him. He said, "Hey, I guess Bubba brought it up first because I think his wife brought it up that she would like to have a go at Hulk, and I think he brought it up to Hulk, and now they kind of set it up that way." I don't think Hulk knew he was being recorded. Yes or no?
Oh, no, he didn't know that. These open relationships, they always work. Oh, no, they don't. They never work. I'm sorry. They're all divorced now, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it because I actually would talk to you about this all day because I find it a fascinating subject, especially where Hulk Hogan claimed in court that his penis wasn't actually 10 inches. Hulk Hogan's penis was 10 inches, but Terry Bollea's penis wasn't 10 inches because Hulk Hogan's penis was in character or whatever it was.
Yes.
It was his gimmick. It was his gimmick height.
I love that.
Amazing. I do apologize. We've got to move on because this is astonishing, this next bit. It's not news, but it came out recently. Vince Russo had, at one point with Jeremy Borash, in fact, I've written it here, many years before Power Slap was invented, the Dana White thing. Vince Russo and Jeremy Borash beat Dana White to the brain fart. A new wrestling promotion called BitchSlap was created by Russo and Borash, complete with a 3-page pitch of lady wrestler gimmick ideas that are so unbelievable that it's almost like a parody of them. It's like a Russo parody of Russo. You cannot believe these. Yes. Have you read these?
No, I was there when they told me about it.
Stop it. So when did they write this? Was it in TNA?
Yeah, before TNA. They got together and they started playing around something that was outlandish and stupid, but stupid enough to command your attention. And it did. They had some crazy, crazy stuff. Name some of the stuff they had.
Well,
they told. Go ahead.
All these, so 3 pages. It almost looks like a book, actually, like a script book. And I haven't got my glasses, so do bear with me. These are all wrestler characters he's come up with. Toxic Shock. Many of the superstars of BitchSlap wrestle with no strings attached. However, this is not the case with a very volatile Toxic Shock. Like a dog in heat, this stuck-up temperamental temptress uses the pads of the BitchSlap ring to the max. While she tends to turn men off with her moody demands, she claims she can make gay men menstruate. Always craving chocolate, she rides her own cycle, as she only shows up to wrestle once a month.
That is vintage Vince. And Jeremy, too. Vintage. And they were telling me this, and they were rolling laughing. Of course, I got to laughing with them because
you thought they
some
were joking.
Of this, well, they were joking, but they're saying, I wonder, could we get somebody to bite on it and take it seriously? But I will say one thing. It was entertaining when they were doing it. Name another one.
Homeless Heather. Nice box, commented a young boy to his loving father as they walked by Homeless Heather's place of residence on the sidewalk just outside BitchSlap Arena. So they've got their own arena for this as well. The only BitchSlap competitor who wrestles for food, Homeless Heather is the she-god of the shelter. Not only does she compete in the BitchSlap rings, but Heather also serves up as the clean-up crew, as she wheels her shopping cart around the arena in search of aluminium cans during the show. Burning her bra for heat in the twilight of the September sky, Homeless Heather hits the soup kitchen before dusk. A riot around the ladle. Heather is loved by her fellow bums, but it's no laughing matter when she steps into the ring. Next one. Seriously, there's 3 pages. I'm only halfway through page 1, so tell me when you're bored of these. Kentucky Love with Papa Woody. So, get your raincoats, kids. Kentucky rain is falling. To say things are a little different in the Kentucky foothills is an understatement. Kentucky Love, a bluegrass, bosomy, bodacious bimbette, is the envy of every farmer's eye. However, for Kentucky Love, there won't be any sowing wild oats. With shotgun in hand, Kentucky's father, Papa Woody, holds a special place when it comes to his divine daughter. You see, Kentucky Love is Papa Woody's forbidden fruit. However, though she attempts to keep her fondling father in line, Woody is hell-bent on bobbing for his daughter's apple.
Oh. Now that's a little strange. You know what I call that? Geographically racist. Yes or no? Because of Kentucky, the incest. But you know why they had a lot of incest up there in the mountains?
Because they didn't have TV?
Well, no. They didn't see anybody else. They had very little penetration from the outside world because they
penetration. That was not the word to use.
No, I meant it. I meant it for a purpose because nobody else could get to them. So that's why when you had a stranger, you never been to Kentucky, right?
No.
Years and years ago, when they had a town set off in those hills, nobody got there because it was too hard to get to. And so when you had if you went into a town and you were a stranger, they would literally, I've been the recipient of this. They just stand there and they stare at you. You know, like when you're staring at somebody and you look back, they usually look off. They don't look off. They just continue to stare at you like you were like a, I don't know. It's very unnerving. And to actually go wrestle up there, it was different. Let me say that. So,
Do you want any more?
no, I got to, but they read about, I don't know, they had like 100, didn't they?
Well, let me just give you the names rather than like the character traits. Well, the Ass Pirates, Blackbeard and Treasure Chest, Birdie Hole for one.
The Ass Pirates.
Oh yeah, Birdie Hole for one. So apparently a PJ legend. Beastal Alley and her little dog Scroat. Wanted by the Humane Society in 48 states. Now, next one is Moose Knuckle and Camel Toe, which are a tag team, apparently. Intergender, I imagine. MBP, Missing Body Parts, Stumpy and Gimpy. You love these.
Hey,
But
let me tell you, these were invented without the use of drugs. Vince doesn't do drugs. He never has. Doesn't drink. So these came off a allegedly rational man just thinking straight up.
He must have had a high fever that day or something. This is like extremely weird wrestling in the mid-90s. There was like something out of California where like a guy would be knocked out and like his valet would wake him up by pissing on him.
Now, why wrestling? Why don't they do this with bands or do it with something else? Why
baseball. That'd cheer it up.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Let me give you the rest of the names here. Nurse Hershey with Dr. Proctor, Grandma Gas, and the rest of the BitchSlap roster is filled out with various other superstars such as Terry Springer, Brittany Shears, Flemin M, Yenta the Jewish American Princess, Lorena Choppit, Jenny Knockersville, and Cucumber You Can Only Imagine, in brackets. So there you go. And you thought you were trying to kill the business.
Yeah, but that never got started.
Oh, good.
No, that wouldn't have killed the business. That would have kept the business from being built. If they'd have come out, you couldn't do anything with it.
That may have erased history of the business.
Yeah.
You love it. You love this, though. You love stupid things like that.
I do like it. It's stupid, but trying to implement them, I don't think you could do that.
We're going to move on. Do you know, we were going to talk about kicking out finishers. We haven't really got time for it. If we have, I'll bring it up at the end. But not the main story, but one of the biggest stories that's been talked a lot these last couple of weeks is, and we've mentioned it before, AEW and these tickets, they're not selling. We've been talking about it the past year, and there's these half-empty arenas, even on like the lower bowl portion of arenas that Tony Khan has booked. But now, in 2024, things are almost pretty much hitting a new low. So Dynamite on Wednesday in Savannah, Georgia, yesterday as we record this, brought in a little under 2,200. And last time they were in Savannah, Georgia, they made 3,700, which for 2022 is actually quite a bad number as well. I watched Dynamite, and man, you could hear like individual people talking.
So you watched the show Wednesday night?
I watched it today while I was writing the script. Had it on the background. I was watching it for the most part, and yeah, it's like the atmosphere.
What do you think of it?
I'll bring up what I thought of it in a minute. I'll stick with the numbers so far. I want to mention a couple more to you. AEW Collision February 10th in Hendersonville. Is that Nevada? Hendersonville? There's a few Henderson.
I guess.
NV.
Henderson, Nevada.
Yeah.
MV.
So it has sold, and keep in mind it's February 10th, 928 tickets. That's a collision taping. AEW Dynamite February 21st. Tulsa, Oklahoma has currently sold 1,700. Excuse me. Described by Dave Meltzer himself as WCW 2000 levels. But that isn't true, because I've looked at WCW 2000 attendance, and they're way higher than this. They're averaging more like 4,000 or 5,000 for TV tapings around this time. Even New Japan, who's having a show in April in Chicago, has sold 4,500 tickets. So, like, AEW is doing worse than, like, New Japan, and New Japan isn't hot at the moment. Having said that, to bring it back a bit, a collision taping in Vancouver in May has sold over 5,000 tickets, and AEW Revolution, that is going to be featuring Sting's retirement on March 3rd, is sold out at around 15,400. So for the pay-per-views and the big shows, they're still selling a decent amount of tickets. But for these TV tapings, there's just nothing going on here, and it's getting worse.
And?
Well, how are they turning people off going? Because I mean, for the most part, the TV ratings are steady.
It's just wrestling. You know, if you just want to watch wrestling, you go on YouTube and you'd never run out of just watching a match. What does it mean? See, what Tony needs to do, he needs to get a story and stay on the story. I did see the Samoa Joe and the Hook match. Wasn't a bad match, but I don't think they ended it right. I would have brought Taz in there. I'd have had him lay out the kid. I'd have had him lay out Taz, gurney the kid up. But in Savannah, didn't he have them on the first of the show?
Yeah, he had him on the first segment. Samoa Joe starts speaking. Hook comes out. They have a brief exchange, handshake, and Hook says, you've not seen the last of me. Security tries to remove Hook, and then Hook gets rid of security, and that's it. So they've just drawn a line under that story. Samoa Joe has now got two potential number one contenders, Adam Page and Swerve Strickland.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I watched the entire Dynamite thing, and it was
okay.
Just cold.
Does either one of them, like, excite you?
No. Swerve Strickland more than Adam Page, but not massively, no.
So I've tried to watch the show, and I tried to be as lenient on AEW as I can. But, hey, if it's boring, it's boring. I mean, if you got to sit there and look for reasons why it's good. Now, remember, we talked about Punk and we talked about Cody. You don't got to talk about them because you can feel it. And they took their time. I mean, I think Tony needs to sit down, reassess what he's got. And the Hook, the Hook kid, I think he's got something with him. But you just can't run through him. You got to take your time. Tell the story. It takes time. See, but what it is, when these territories go down like this, now I've been around a bunch of them. The business goes down, but yet they don't want to take their time to build the story. And it's called, for a reason, a hot shot. You start hot shotting it, and it may bring it up a week, and that's about it. So if you just take your time, think this angle out. And like you said, when I would do an interview, I would talk to people to where they understood me. I think Tony's missing that. Tony Khan is missing that. I think he's trying to impress the critics more than he's trying to impress the fans, which don't give a shit about critics anyway. They just know what they like. And if he had a hell of a product, they would come. He would be drawing more than 2,200 people because the interest is there. I think Tony has too much on his plate. He's trying to book too much. I don't know. I've heard nobody else's name that is helping him that I think has a history of booking. Somebody asked me, why don't you go and help him? Well, first of all, I'm not interested in it. Second of all, he hasn't asked. But I don't think I don't think I would be interested in doing it anyway.
If you did do it, if he called you and said, can you just do you can stay at home, email in your suggestions, give me a report, essentially. Do you think he'd listen?
Oh, he might listen.
Or do you think he'd implement what you'd said?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't need me to tell him what to do. I think he needs to get him all about 10 good or 12 good guys and tell everything around them. I think he has too many talents under contract. He's trying to use them, and I think he could use the girls a little bit better. The best thing he has in the girls is that Toni Storm, and she is very, very interesting. We talked about her earlier. But you can do so much with her because she's such a unique character. I don't know who came up with that idea. I think she did because she's probably a fan of it. But it works. It works well. But I don't know why they don't use that to help the other girls get over. At one time, I thought their group of girls, let me go back to WWE, under the Vince regime, I think AEW girls were over the WWE girls.
They probably were.
Because the way they were using them. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Hey, I've tried to kill this business for 50 years. Hey, this could be my chance to do it. What? I could get a job with AEW and kill them. Just completely kill them. And hey, I could have a match. And don't put anybody out there. You know what I'd have? The Invisible Men wrestling each other. And just call it and have just sound effects. Boom, boom. Oh, what a backdrop. Oh, a good arm drag. Drop kick. Oh, he moved. So you're... and all of a sudden, ding, ding, ding. The match is over. How'd you like that, Penny?
I quite like that.
But I could actually... like I said, we tried to kill it for 50 years, can't do it. I wonder, would that kill it? What do you think? What do you think the rating would be? Or turn the lights out. You could do that too.
Or just hear like Matt.
Yeah, boom, okay. Boom, yeah, and you hear some commentary. So
we're going to get to the production of AEW in a minute. I've made some notes on it and see how it compares with yours. Before we do that, I want to get to the promotion of shows for AEW. So we're going back on tickets here. So as I say, they're selling around 2,000 tickets or 2,000 and a bit tickets for TV shows at the TV tapings, and this is Dynamite as well. And from what I can tell and what people have said, actual promotion of the live events, aside from on Twitter, let's say, and they'd only announce matches a couple of days beforehand. Actual promotion, like locally, getting guys out there, saying it on the radio. I know that's old-fashioned, but, doing interviews, doing press, something like that, just isn't happening. So for Dynamite in Savannah, Georgia, yesterday, the sum total of local advertising they did was they sent Darby Allin out a day before, so on Tuesday, to do some local interviews. That was the sum total of their local advertising.
That's it?
That was it. And that isn't an isolated incident. That's happened many times where, so many fans go on the internet or, air their opinions and they say, I would have gone to a show, but I didn't even know it was happening. Or I knew it was happening too late. And people have got families. People have got to plan for these things. And the average age of someone who watches AEW is in their 40s. So they're going to have, for the most part, probably kids. And you can't just swan off. You've got to make a plan in advance for this kind of thing. And Sting's a good example. Every single place that Sting goes to now is the last time he's ever going to wrestle or appear in this arena. And they haven't done a Sting retirement tour. They don't advertise it as this is the last time you'll see Sting in California or Savannah, Georgia, or wherever it may be. Sting just turns up. So they've got something they could advertise, and then they don't. Another thing is...
Okay, in Savannah, was Sting there?
Yes. And guess what he did?
What?
He did a promo, and he said about 5 words, and they left. Darby Allin did all the talking. He also painted in his hairline with his face paint, which is quite weird.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, if AEW does promote matches in advance, they're nearly always the undercard matches. They don't say, see this star, see Kenny Omega here, see Bryan Danielson here, Samoa Joe will be here. For the most part, they're advertising the undercard stuff, if they do advertise.
That's all they got.
Yeah.
Their top guys are all hurt or out. Omega's hurt, right?
Yeah.
Danielson's hurt, right?
He's still wrestling, though. He's back wrestling.
And who else is not there?
Well, Sting's going to be retired. Oh, who else? There was quite a few of them, and they've all left my head. But there was a few.
See, I don't know who AEW has any heat on whatsoever. They're trying to make this Wardlow, is it Wardlow?
Low.
Or is it Wardlow a killer? But he's too inexperienced. How long has he been in the business?
A few years.
And they've already seen the killers. And he's not I don't think he's getting over anyway.
2014, he debuted.
Well, he hadn't learned a lot in 10 years.
Now, as I say, I watched all of Dynamite. I was doing script writing as well, so I wasn't paying too much attention to it. But what do you think? Let's talk purely from a production standpoint. Forget like the stories and booking and all that kind of thing.
Horrible. Less than horrible.
Tell me.
Well, they go in the back and they do this interview, and I've timed them. Sometimes they're like 47 seconds. For what reason? They keep it under a minute. Well, between the announcer saying what the premise of the interview is, or question the interviewee about something going on, a match coming up, well, she'll take 15 or 20 seconds, which leaves zero time for the wrestler to say anything. But even before that, you notice how badly lit it is, how amateurish it actually looks. I've seen better stuff on Home and Garden. I mean, they light it up better. But see, anytime you have a TV involved, it's all lighting. You got to light it up unless you have a reason for it to be dark, which they have no reason. But it's just, they have, to me, when they have interviews, they have no direction. I don't know who's doing these interviews. I don't know who's in charge of them, but it's just a cluster. And actually, they end up looking worse off than if they had no interview at all, or just have the interviewer just out there talking about herself and throwing a font. They don't even show the fonts. Oh, come, you know how they used to do. I remember Atlanta, Georgia they would promo that card 6 times during an hour show. Memphis is the same way. Coming this Monday night, you knew the matches were on Monday night at 8 o'clock, and the main event, Jerry the King Lawler versus blah, 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 and some kind of match, a lumberjack match here, and another match, a stipulation match, and a no DQ. And they go all the way down the card, be there, money. Well, they made it sound exciting. They don't even make this sound exciting. It's like, well, yeah, we're going to be in Savannah and blah, blah, blah. Get your tickets here and this, that, and the other, and bye. We're gone.
But they won't tell you who's there for the most part. That's the thing. You see, you just said, Jerry the King Lawler will be facing so-and-so in the main event. But with AEW, it's like, AEW is going to be in wherever it's going to be. Tickets.
At whatever time.
At whatever time. And it's vague. They don't tell you who's going to be there.
Yeah. And ringside, they don't even tell you what the ticket prices are or nothing, or where to call or where to buy them or anything. I don't understand that. They need to take promotion or promoting 101. If you're going to promote something, promote it. Don't just say we're going to be in Savannah and not where or what. I don't know. They could use some help. But see, it's not up to me to help them. They have to help themselves. They have to actually seek help. How could this show be better? And then again, I don't know. I mean, Tony can't do everything. He's trying to book, but he's trying to book how many shows?
3 a week, not
3
including
different
pay-per-views.
shows and a pay-per-view all within a month. So that leaves him 3 times 4, 12 shows and a pay-per-view. He's trying to book. Can't do it. Can't do it and make them all worthy. Booking is harder than what it seems. Now, somebody can say, oh, well, Dutch, you can sit back and say, this needs to be done, and this needs to be done, this needs to be done. Yeah, well, I can. But until it's done, funny, we don't knock WWE because their show is good. I mean, they actually make you watch their show. And look at the lighting that WWE has. You know how much it costs?
Wonderful, the lighting there.
No kidding. You know what it costs for that center thing over the ring? I mean, they go in 2 days earlier and put that up. That's just not thrown up day of the show. This is 10, 15 years ago. It was $60,000 to do it then. It's probably double that or triple that now. When I don't know, it's just when some of those interviews they do backstage look like it's done by a 10th grader with just a hand camera.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm gonna bring that up right now. The arena itself looks like it's lit up with a monk's candle. Like, it's so black. It's so dark. I'll get to the backstage thing quickly, right? I've got a light here, as I showed you beforehand, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a number on there that it's 3,900. It's actually quite. Hang on, I can make it warmer. I can make it cooler. So anyway, it's the temperature of the light, right? AEW's is so cold. It's too blue. So you've got black. Everyone's skin tone is too blue, so it looks cold. You've got an, cavernous, echoey, because there's not enough people in the arena. So when they make noise, it sounds like they're making noise in a church. So you're just getting that reverb from the audio. It just sounds, it looks cold and empty in the arena. But in the backstage, they've got the purpose-built, interview area where it looks fine. And Renee Paquette interviewed Orange Cassidy yesterday on Dynamite, as we record this. But then, for some reason, she does at least 2 interviews in a hallway. And it's like, well, hang on. Renee had to move from the nice, warm-looking backstage area to do interview Orange Cassidy to then do a freezing, cold-looking interview lit by, a phone torch to interview Adam Page. And it's like, why did you move to make it look worse when you should have just stayed where you were and it will look fine?
I don't know who does their production. I don't know. I'm sure it's one of those trucks you just pull in, take the cameras off, take the lights off, and put it up. See, the ring the ring is lit pretty well, but right outside the ring, it goes dark. Maybe you can see the first row or 2 or 3 rows, and that's it. So, see, and that makes me think, I don't know how Warner Brothers wants to take a show like that and pay them any type of money comparable to what WWE got. See what I mean?
Yeah.
They look at that. That's their business. And if that show looks bad, they look bad. So we'll see where it leads. I mean, and I'm not saying this. I don't want anybody to get the impression that I'm just blasting them for no reason. watch the show. I'm actually pleading to the people, fan, watch AEW and just see if you don't agree with me. Let alone, I mean, the matches don't even, they don't hold me. I mean, and I'm saying just the quality of the show won't, I mean, just the way it looks won't hold you either. But I'm not talking here just to hear myself talk. I want him to improve that, because even TNA was well lit. Now we went to Universal and we had a regular building where we could build into that. And I'm traveling from arena to arena to arena, very, very difficult, because every arena is different. And you ought to hear those guys on the truck say, "Oh, I hate to come this place because they don't have this and they don't have that. And we got to go over there to do this." But if you're in the same building every week, you know it. See, TNA had a regular building on the Universal lot that we had studio, I think we had Studio 4 maybe. But that's where we did TV, every 2 weeks. And you could go to the show. If you went to Universal, you didn't have to buy a ticket to come in. It was like, I think we did it on a Tuesday nights or a Wednesday night. I think we did 2 nights. I think it's been so long, but the people could just walk right off the street in Universal. You could walk right up and go in and have a seat. A lot of times, I think it would seat like 1,000 people. And I've seen an overflow a lot of times, but you couldn't tell them when to leave. I mean, they could get up and they could leave at any time. Like if you have this special match coming up and it's getting late and they want to go ride the Ferris wheel, they just get up and leave. So they might leave a big spot right in the middle of the audience that you'd have to fill in real quick.
That's why you had to charge them to leave.
Well, we made more money that way. let them in free and then charge them to let them go. You held them hostage, and the longer they stayed, the more it cost them to get out. See, there's some kind of genius around that thinking.
Now, we're not talking about the matches themselves or the booking really about this, but I want to make mention of one more thing. So I watched Dynamite yesterday.
Yep.
The main event was Adam Copeland versus Minoru Suzuki. So, big name in New Japan. But it, as far as I can tell, was a cold match. And so, say last week, they built up in the show itself why it was important that Hook was wrestling Samoa Joe for the world title. Yes. And then they were treating the show, the commentators were like it was an audition for new viewers. They were telling me why so-and-so didn't like so-and-so. They were giving everyone's name, and they did a good job. This week, I don't think they impressed upon me why it was an important match or a big match that Adam Copeland, the former Edge, was wrestling Minoru Suzuki. Because I had no idea. I watched it. I had no idea why they were wrestling, what the motivations were. I didn't get the reason why it was a big main event. It was just a match.
After it was over, you still didn't have the answer.
No.
So it was just a match.
Yeah.
So I don't get it either. I mean, they act as though people have been following the show. I mean, the Japanese wrestlers, you have to introduce them because you need to treat every show like you have new viewers. And if you say the same thing over and over, well, there's a reason for that. So you had no introductory video of this guy?
I had a bit of a bad feed, had to skip here and there to get through it, but as far as I could tell, there was no information on who Minoru Suzuki was. I can't say his first name. Not at all for me.
Who is he?
He's a guy who looks like he's got alopecia. He's you'd recognise his head. But yeah, he's one of the big wrestlers in New Japan, has been for years.
But you had to figure that out yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Here's the thing. Tony Khan, right, not only does he expect you to follow all the AEW shows to catch up with it, he also expects you to follow AAA and CMLL and New Japan. He books, well, it's not even booking, it's just matchmaking, as you say.
Yes.
He put two people together and expected you to make your own storyline and give you a reason to care about it.
Well, and what do you get from that?
Nothing. Especially because I knew Adam Copeland
and
would win.
what's he getting from that? Nothing.
His own personal jollies, I imagine, because he's seen these two people wrestle that he wanted to see wrestle.
Well, I got this from not reading, but hearing Dave Meltzer and all these other guys. He's a rich kid who's playing with live dolls. He's lining them up. He's doing his own storylines that only he understands, I guess. And he's getting exactly what he's putting into it, because nobody understands it. I don't understand it, and I'm trying to understand it. I want him to do well, because he's paying good money from what I hear. So if you can get on that payroll, you don't got to really do nothing. If you suggest something, he may take it or he may not. But he's probably been given 1,000 angles to do. But I think he's covered up with that. But when you have guys like Cesaro, or what's his name now, Claudio Castagnoli or whatever. What's his name?
Castagnoli, near enough.
Yeah. And he had CM Punk, he had Cody Rhodes, but he didn't burn the buildings down with them. So, and they've had some great houses. So the guys that he has over, you might see this guy here 1 week. Let's say Eddie Kingston. You see Eddie Kingston once a month. Maybe. Because if you're going to push somebody, let's push him. Let's have him out there at least in a month. Have him out there at least 3 times, 3 out of the 4 weeks. And then he only misses a week. Eddie Kingston, you may see him this week, and you may not see him again for 3 weeks. But at least they know who he is. And there's another guy who does a really good interview. Because that's the way he talks, and you understand what he's saying, and he's straightforward. And I think they could get him over. And he's not that great a worker, but what he does, you believe. And isn't that the bottom line we're trying to get at?
Absolutely.
I like Eddie. So I think for what he does, he's believable. So
I'll shut this down with 2 more points for you to react to. At least twice in the broadcast on Dynamite, they say, "We've not seen this guy for a while."
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, you've not seen him for a while.
Right. They're telling the truth.
But it's like, isn't that a problem? You've not seen this guy for a while.
Absolutely.
And it was the Acclaimed. They're the Trios champions with Billy Gunn. Yeah. And it's like, well, we've not seen you for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
I don't. He goes against the cardinal rules of wrestling. But you want to get somebody over, you got to put them out there, and you got to put them over. You got to put them. This is why I miss actually. You can't do it these days, but like Samoa Joe beat Hook last week, almost like a jobber match. But he beat him, and people were looking forward to it. Wasn't a bad match, but that's the way jobber matches used to be. So you wanted if you were put out in one of those matches, you wanted the guy you wanted him to be an aggressive son of a bitch. You want him to come and bring it to you. So when you finally got your hand raised after 2 minutes or whatever it was, it looked like you beat somebody that wanted to fight you, but you beat them. See, jobber matches where you go out there and you just beat the guy up and he don't do nothing, it actually hurts everybody. It hurts actually the guy that's winning. It hurts him. And the guy that's losing don't matter for him because he ain't coming back anyway, I hope. But see, the Hook match versus Samoa Joe last week was almost like a jobber match 20 years ago. So And I thought they booked that all wrong because, well, I think they didn't book it all wrong. I think they could have booked it better. So did I tell you my finish for it was?
Yeah, Taz and
yeah, he beats up the kid, goes back to beat up the kid more, and here comes Taz. Hey, man, that's my kid. That's my kid. And said, okay, go check on him. When he turns back, Joe just rips him up and puts him in the same hole, leaves both of them laying. And then some people come in, like Swerve and knock the Hangman Page, and he leaves. But I would take the kid out on a gurney, on a stretcher. That's the last thing we see of him. So now you got to, and keep playing that back and playing that back and playing that back.
Do you remember? Right, I know you weren't in WWF at this time, but and I'll finish with my final point in a second. Is why everyone remembers, apart from the fact that it was silly, is that everyone remembers why the thing where Papa Shango cursed the Ultimate Warrior and then he puked up green barf all over in the backstage. Do you know why people remember that? It's because they replayed that on every single show for 6 weeks straight.
See, you remember it. If you want them to remember it, you got to keep reminding. Listen, we're not teaching quantum physics here. We're not teaching that. We're teaching that, hey, something's going to happen here. Even if they say nothing's booked, you still, by the very fact that they're showing it back and back and back, well, they're priming your brain to expect something. And he asked Taz for a match. Taz said, I hadn't had a match in years, man. I hadn't had a match. But by God, I will fight you. And have him go in there against Taz and beat the living crap out of him, put him out, then have Hook come in and do something.
You've got something against Taz, haven't you? You just want to see Taz beaten up.
No, but Taz could be. He's the guy's father, right?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. No, I'm just joking with you.
And when you involve family, and Taz tells him, don't you come in. And when Taz tells him on an interview, don't come in, what's that telling the fans? He's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes in, but anyway, there's a lot of ways to do it. And I think they got a pay-per-view or two that would do pretty well with Hook and Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe needs an opponent. Mm-hmm. And it would help a little Hook to climb that ladder. And if he don't make it then, now he's got a story to tell too. Now he goes back and you follow him training. And in about 6 months, you lay something on him. Now he's earned it. So he's paid his dues. He's paid his respects. So now I'm where I want to be. And then he tells his dad, leave me alone. You've done enough. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways you could tell the story, but I think they could have told it a lot better. A lot, not better, but deeper. Deeper is what I'm going for.
No, are we all?
Stop it. I got that.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to end it on this.
I'm telling you, talking about Hulk Hogan and
Heather Clem.
Yeah.
The wife.
I got it.
The last thing I'm going to say, every match had something in common last night as we record this. Do you want to know what it was?
Boring.
There was ups and downs with different matches, but I correctly predicted every single winner. And you know why? Because you would have to be a complete dribbling moron to not figure out who's going to win and who was going to lose. You might as well have just read the spoilers beforehand.
Okay, do you have that same... Can you tell who's going to win a WWE match?
I'm sure for quite a few matches you do, but there's always the mid-card matches that you never know. I mean, there's loads of matches that you can't quite tell, but in this Dynamite, every single person, it would have made no sense for the person to win to lose.
Okay, let's take the angle with who was the Sami Zayn.
Mm-hmm.
They took Sami Zayn from being just a straight up enhancement talent, a regular enhancement talent. They took him to being a legitimate contender for the world's heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
And how long did it take them?
Not long.
It took them,
Not long. He was just somewhere in the
No,
mid card.
but it took them to get him up there. Remember, even doing when he was with the Bloodline, he was still an enhancement talent. He was just there, and everybody expected something to happen with him. And finally, when it happened, they bought it, and they made him a legitimate contender for Roman Reigns' title. I can't believe that when that happened, and he beat Sammy, and you had all the internet guys like Alvarez and all those guys and Meltzer saying, "Oh, what a great time to put it on Sami Zayn." And I'm thinking, well, yeah, it would have been it would have blown the roof off the building. I'm not doubting that. But what are you going to do on Raw next week? All of a sudden, you're going to go out and tell everybody who didn't see that match, by the way, that Sami Zayn's the new champion. And people go, what?
But that's not the point, though. The point is that they built a guy who was in the mid card to a main event, and a lot of people thought he was going to win. Intrigue. You didn't know what was going to happen in the match. Whether he won or not, you didn't know, or you didn't have a great idea who would win or not.
And a lot of people, but okay, say he wins, and then you're sitting there, and you weren't in Montreal, and all of a sudden he comes out as the champion. Now the next thing you think, and they could have kept the story going, but it loses something because Roman Reigns is not the exalted one. Now it's Sami Zayn. Now you could have done something, but it's not the same. You can't spend 3 years building a guy and then take it off him for a talent. And Sami Zayn is tremendous talent. He has a tremendous ability. But if you're thinking like a fan, here's Roman, he's all jacked up, and Sammy looks like he hadn't walked by a gym in 7 years. He doesn't drink health drinks. He drinks beer or whatever he drinks. But you throw all that away. Now you got to go back to the drawing board. And they got Roman Reigns. And it took them about a year to get Roman as a heel, because the people did not buy him as a heel because they bought him still as a babyface, as a member of the Shield.
Yeah. Well, who just overcame cancer at that point as well.
Right, and then he just overcame cancer. So you got to feel, well, this guy's a battler. This guy's a warrior. I like him. I like his spirit. But all of a sudden now you want us to boo him? Took them a while to get him there, but they did, and they did it well. So, and I've talked for years and years and years, WWE has no bench strength. That's true a year ago.
Yeah.
Not now.
It's the strongest it's been since maybe the 80s or like 2002. They've got so many potential main eventers there.
Right. And you go down that bench and, I know him, and then all these guys now can be interjected in anything they got and bought. Even Drew. Now they got Drew. He's legitimate. But I think the sleeping giant amongst all of them is Gunther. Gunther is the guy. Because you remember a guy named Johnny Valentine?
Yeah.
I think he's the second coming of Johnny Valentine. Talks good, and he doesn't do all these silly spots. He just beats the crap out of people, and the people can buy that. So,
based on all that, I just wanted to finish on this. We've got MJF is injured, Adam Cole is injured. I forgot that Jamie Hayter's injured. Juice Robinson is injured. Kenny Omega, I can't remember if I mentioned him. Kyle O'Reilly still on the injured list for like a year probably. Don't know who that guy is. Pac, who was barely there anyway. Ray Phoenix, Sammy Guevara, loads of people injured at the moment in AEW. So everything's. But we're saying this not because we hate AEW. It's because these are easy fixes. A lot of these things, and for some with unlimited money. These like just the lighting is such an easy fix. Some extra promotion locally is an easy fix. All it takes is a bit of foresight and probably some extra help, which is desperately needed, I think. But from what I've been told by people, Tony wants to do everything, and you just can't do everything.
Well, I salute him for doing that, because he's not a stranger to hard work. I think you need some sleep. Sometimes you see, Tony, And this is what I this is also what I've noticed about him. His eyes are like this all the time, and he's looking around.
He's
He
probably
doesn't blink.
hallucinating from lack of sleep.
Something. But anyway, I've met Tony one time. I met him in Jacksonville when WWE was in town. It was a Salute to the Troops show. He was there, and nice guy. And I didn't know at the time that he was thinking about starting a promotion. But I remember two guys who talked to him extensively that night. Guess who they were?
Triple H.
No,
go on. I'm sure you've told me, but I can't remember.
Cody
Uh-huh.
and Arn Anderson. So, and they both ended up with the AEW. But they were talking shop, but more power to them.
Yeah, like you didn't know he was a billionaire's son. You just knew he was
I
the
didn't
kid
know,
with the
but-
wide eyes sat in the back.
Well, he didn't have white eyes that night.
Well, you probably got a night's sleep for once.
Oh, yeah, maybe. So,
Listen, Dutch, we're going to shut this podcast down now. We've gone a tiny bit over our allotted time, and I really need the toilet. So, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. We'll catch you again on Tuesday for Ask Dutch Anything. As you know, we did all the plugs at the beginning. You don't need to be reminded of that. But if you want to send in a question to the Ask Dutch Anything show, questionsfordutch@gmail.com is where you email it to. But for now, thank you very much all for watching. We'll see you again on Tuesday. And Dutch, we the people.
we the people.